7:30-ish. We'll call a meeting of the Board of Zoning, Planning, and Appeals to order. And Mr. Simmons, will you do a roll call?
Certainly. Williams.
Present.
Pippin.
Here.
Graziano.
I'm here.
O'Laughlin.
Here.
Kretschmer.
Here.
Jasper. And Corey.
Okay, if I could ask everybody to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, do a little housekeeping here for starters. We have the draft minutes of the last meeting. Are there any comments, corrections, questions by the members of the board?
Do you have any, is what the question should be.
I've been having trouble finding stuff lately. So.
Brian's on to you, man.
Hearing none, I'll ask for consensus, or I forget how he's doing
It's
this
a
now.
consensus.
Just a consensus vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes. We will accept the minutes. Okay, call village case number 18 ZPA 09001. Sunrun installation services for a conditional use for solar energy system at 450 Ridgewood Drive. Mr. Simmons, you want to give us a little quick synopsis here?
Sure. And just a quick correction to the address is 540 Ridgewood Drive. The agenda was listed wrong, but that was my fault in the staff report as well. The proposal this evening, the petitioner is seeking approval for conditional use to install a solar energy system on the subject property. As seen in this slide, they're seeking approval to install roughly 500 square feet of solar panels on the roof of the two-story building, which comprises a little bit less than a quarter of the roof surface area. We split about 50-50 of installation on both the front and rear elevations, where slightly more is on the front elevation. There's one extra panel that would be installed in that area, but in general would be roughly 500 square feet of total photo cells would be installed in the structure. This slide shows the areas where the solar panels would be installed on the roof. As you can see on the right-hand side, solar panels would be installed on either side of the roof peak. There would be panels that would be visible from the street on the front elevation, which would be shown on the left-hand slide, or left-hand image on this slide. This image is one that the petitioner provided earlier today, and they have a presentation they can also provide. Shows what a typical installation would look like as far as from a street and also closer up on the roof surface, but they would be mounted to the roof with various brackets, and then with the angle of the house facing east-west, they would get daylight on the panels throughout the entire day. Within the village code, there are no specific regulations or standards for solar panels as far as the installation of them. This simply is a requirement from a conditional use standard standpoint that they require additional approvals before they can be installed. Otherwise, they would need to comply with all the village's regulations for bulk standards as far as setbacks and building heights. But for conditional use, the village, as the board is aware, there are standards within the ordinance for conditional uses, which are summarized in the slide, that the use would not substantially diminish or impair property values within the immediate vicinity, would not impede normal or orderly development of surrounding property, or contribute to the overburdening of municipal services. Petitioner did provide a written response to those standards, which is in your packet as well, and they can provide additional feedback as far as how they meet these standards if the board has questions. With staff's review of the petition, staff does believe that it complies with the conditional use standards, and therefore recommends, should the ZPA concur with that recommendation, Recommend approval of a motion to approve a conditional use for an accessory solar energy system for the subject property with the proposed improvements substantially conforming to the attached plans and exhibits as part of the petition. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, but the petitioner does have additional information they can provide as well as far as the installation.
So my question to you is the one picture you had of them on another house there. So it will be the low profile ones?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, they have the different heights. I prefer the low profile. It really, you don't see them then. I mean, you see them, but not sticking up off the top of the house. Okay. That was my only question.
Okay. I guess you're the petitioners?
Yes.
Okay. I should tell you that there are only 5 members of the board here tonight for a favorable recommendation. You need at least 4 of us to vote in favor. You have the option of waiting till the next meeting when possibly all 7 members of the board are here, or we can just forge ahead today and see where we go. You're willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Question for Brian. I don't know, somewhere in the back of my head, I had the impression that we had something on the books that said that the panels could not be visible from the street. Is that something we were talking about under the new ordinance, or is that just something that popped into my feeble brain?
It was discussed in a previous application that we had for one of the other cases that was referenced in the staff report. It was discussed as far as where they would be installed on that roof, whether they're in the front or the rear of the structure. There is nothing in the code that specifically says where they could be. From a standpoint of being installed on the roof surface, there's no restrictions as far as how much of the roof area or where they should be installed on the roof surface.
Okay. Call it a senior moment. Okay. Do you want to give us a quick presentation of what you're planning to do, why you're doing it, and
Yeah.
Love to.
Yeah. My name's Amy Hart. This is Wes.
My name is Weston Wheelham.
And yeah, thanks for taking the time, first of all, this evening to consider the conditional use permit. Basically, we wanted to come and just make sure we addressed any questions that you may had about this particular project. I work on sort of the government affairs, public policy side of Sunrun. So if you have questions about the new state law and the new policies that are probably bringing a lot more projects to you, a variety of sizes, I can answer some of those questions as well. That's been something I've been working on for several years. And then Weston's our regional sales manager here. So we brought just a couple of other slides just to mainly show you what other projects have looked like in Illinois, and particularly what those sort of flush-mounted systems look like along a roof.
Yeah, no, I know they've come a long way, but I know that people still want to put some of those ones that'll twist and angle, and from a street view, those are just horrible.
Yeah. And even from a structural engineering standpoint, those require a little extra work. So as Brian showed you, this was the proposed project that we've given to the customer, and that you saw our CAD drawing, and then this is the site drawing. I think, Brian, you probably had a better photo to be able to see what that produces. When we design a system, there's a rule in Illinois and ComEd's territory that you can't produce more power than what you use over the course of a year. So we work and design a system that works for that homeowner. So that's why you'll see the number of panels, it doesn't fill up the whole roof because it doesn't need to. It's designed to offset a certain percentage of their home. So you're always buying usually a little bit of power from ComEd. You always stay connected to the grid, but maybe in June and July, you're storing a few extra credits, and then you're using a lot more power from ComEd in November and December on some of the cloudier days. Do you want to add anything on this slide?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you could see sort of the net metering in action, where it looks like April, May, June, July, you're saving up credits that you're sending back to ComEd. They give you credit on your bill, and then a month like November, December, the consumer is going to use those credits with the goal of only having a connection charge with ComEd, and then the power produced by their own roof.
Can I, so, okay, so what I've heard previously is the goal, there's some people that go, I can produce my own and sell it back. That's not,
Well,
Yeah.
you do that on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So the net metering rule allows you, let's say it's sunny and you're not at home, your meter would be spinning backwards.
Right.
And you can store some credits if you're not using all of it. But then at night, you're going to be using up those credits.
okay,
So given how you design a system, you can see the production of the system is this light blue line.
yeah, no,
Sorry, let me just go to the one you
I see it,
can't
yeah.
So you're storing up kind of a lot of those credits from the summer months that maybe in November you don't get as much.
To your point, it's an exchange. It's always an exchange. It's never a sale.
So let's say my average is $100 ComEd bill. So if what is the benefit other than green? What is the benefit to this for a homeowner?
So your breakdown on your bill, let's say, that's a good example, $100 bill. You're going to have, let's say, $40 of it is the power, $40 is the delivery, and then $20 is the taxes and fees and connections. If the solar system is generating all of the power that you need in that month, then your supply and your delivery is gone, most in taxes and fees are gone, and then you're just left with a $15 connection charge to ComEd. So in an ideal situation, in a month like here, April, May, June, that's that $100 is all but covered except maybe like the $15 connection charge that you'll always have just to be connected to ComEd.
And so for some homeowners, to kind of get at that financing piece, some homeowners will take out their own home equity line of credit to finance their own system. We can do that with customers. We also bring financing to the homeowner, so they see sort of an immediate, either bill neutral, but for the vast majority, you see energy savings
Okay.
on your bill. So we do the financing for the customer.
No, my
Is that-
question
So
was
depending on the
So-
installer, they'll do different things.
Because I've seen people, deals where you're selling your energy back to pay for it, you're paying as you go sort of thing, like, is that?
Sort of, because it's, but if you want to explain the
Yeah,
lease.
so in one case, we have a product where it's like a solar payment. So you're essentially paying for the power, but you're paying to like use the panels, and then Sunrun maintains and monitors and repairs them over the life of them. So in that case, your payment is kind of like for the power, but really it's like a leveled out payment. So it's not keeping track on, okay, you generate this much power, this is how much you pay us. It's more of just an even, same payment over time. And then whatever they generate, you keep. So to that point, if they generate, like a very sunny year that we have and they generate more, whatever they make, you just use it.
So we'll look at, here's the estimated production over 12 months, and then we'll calculate lifetime of that lease agreement, and then a monthly payment that sort of equals what we think is fair production over those 12 months, so what that monthly payment would be.
Mhm.
And like Weston was saying, if that solar system on a home overproduces, so it's extra sunny that month, those are credits that go to the homeowner. If it underproduces, they don't get penalized for that, right? Those are just the same.
They get a credit on
They
it.
get a credit.
Because we guarantee how much power.
So worst case scenario, they're not going to have someone that does that sort of thing and you're like, all right, you're not paying for it, we're going to rip the solar system out, right? That doesn't,
Right.
if they don't pay for it ahead of time and it's still yours, we're not going to look at, if someone like sells the house, then all of a sudden that's still attached to the house, who is responsible and
Yeah.
how does
I
that
mean,
work?
in a case like that, it would transfer to the new homeowner very easily. And then in a case like a purchase, if they pay up front for the system.
Right.
And it's a part of the home, then they just don't have a payment, and then their ComEd bill is much lower in that case.
So it just depends on what an installer may want to do. But for our projects, the vast majority of our projects that are those leased systems where we have a contract with the homeowner, we maintain the systems and then work with a realtor if, for example, they would sell it, to explain, here's how this can continue.
And if someone didn't want it,
There's a provision, there's an out provision as well.
Okay.
So then we would just take off the panels.
oh, okay, so you would, oh, there is a way to
Yep,
do that, and okay.
to restore the roof back to how it was.
And then, Brian, would there be any village involvement in that scenario, taking it off?
Likely, yes, there'd be electrical permit that would be required because you're disconnecting the system, so likely would require a permit for the demo of it. Okay.
And I'll just flip through a couple of these other photos here. This is the one I wanted to show you as well, as this is kind of what that racking looks like underneath the panels. The electricity runs through those metal conduits. You can see on the left-hand picture, but it's pretty close to flush. There's, I don't know, 6 inches, 8 inches?
A little bit less than 6.
Yeah,
But
a little bit less than 6 inches of air underneath the panels. But I thought we'd bring those and kind of give you a better idea. This is where your electricity comes down. It goes through an inverter to convert it from DC electricity to AC electricity, and then is usually right next to your breaker box to your service. Thanks for
Interesting.
Any more questions for the?
Yeah, it looked like there was some pretty mature trees on the south and west side of the house. Are they going to have to be removed, or are they going to be an impact, or?
Could we go back to the picture
Yeah,
there?
Of their house?
Yeah,
probably
This-
the one of yours,
uh,
right?
the-
Like
No, the one,
it was the aerial.
that one?
let's go back here, I'm sorry. So this is our model that we've designed. Those circles you see around the trees are the height of the tree, and our designs factor in the shade that those trees produce. So you can see the design here, there's no panels on the bottom, so to the south of the home, because panels there would be a little bit more shaded. And it's very faint, but there's actually sort of like a shadow line shown in one of the panels.
Yeah, I
So
see
the
it.
system, so the system is getting slightly shaded, but I would say for probably 60% of the day, it's getting a good amount of sun. And all of those calculations are how we come up with how much the system's kind of like set to generate. And then once we factor that number, we guarantee that that's how much it'll generate.
Okay. That's today. I mean, trees grow,
So it-
you know, trees grow. So, I mean, today are you projecting out future growth at all on that, or is that the
There's a slight
conditions
growth
now?
factor, but there's also, something that the homeowner, if they own it, then it's their job to sort of keep their trees, pruned to a certain, to a certain aspect. And that's, that's something that's common for the solar system. Trees, just depending on the trees, roughly 2 feet a year, give or take. So,
Yeah, and I think the designs, if I remember correctly, kind of take into consideration the type of species, if you can identify it, right, as far as how tall it could get and the shading.
Okay, I just was curious if that was factored in.
Mhm.
So,
What about the age of the roof? Does that come into play when you're looking at it? I mean, if it's an older roof,
yeah, absolutely. It's actually one of the main qualifiers to, going solar. So I would say roughly 25% of houses qualify for solar. So the first thing that Sunrun does, once all the paperwork is sort of in order and the customer is looking to start a project, we send out, at no cost to them, we send out a site surveyor who measures the roof surfaces, looks over electrical, makes sure, the main panel's in good condition, evaluates the roof surfaces to see the age of the roof, right? Of course, we ask the customer, but we do our own, site pictures showing the like how many granules are left on the shingle and so on. So there has to be a minimum, usually a minimum of 15 years on the roof for us to give it an okay. But yeah, because we guarantee the roof, a certain part of the time that the solar system's there, it's very behoove us to make sure that the roof is in good condition. If there's a roof that needs some work, generally Sunrun has some, scope of work funds set aside to help the homeowner do, let's say, a small roof repair or like an upgrade to make the system feasible for solar. And then once we agree that, okay, the roof is in good condition and any vents or missing shingles have been fixed, then the system could proceed to installation.
now what if they wanted to, because apparently there's a lot of hail damage in Carrick, because I get people knocking on my door all the time and asking me that, even when there's not. But I would assume that these can take the weather and all that and whatnot, so there's not going to be like broken.
Exactly. So, so solar panels themselves are meant to be outside. They're meant to be on top of a roof. They're at an angle. They take a golf ball sized hail at terminal velocity. We're in states like Colorado and Massachusetts. I would say Colorado probably gets the most hail out of the states that we're in. And we don't have claims out there. We don't have issues with broken panels. And Sunrun does insure and monitor the system if it's in our possession. And we offer similar type of insurance to the homeowner if they purchase the system, in which case they could go through the proper means if there was a rare case of, like, let's say something larger than a golf ball, something like a baseball-sized hail, which is a bit of a rare occurrence.
On the production side too, I think the other thing that I would note that might be of interest as more questions come up about solar is part of the legislation that's allowed for additional solar in Illinois is basically saying to the utilities, instead of, they have a 25% requirement for their renewable portfolio standard, and instead of going out of state to get whatever, the solar from wind farm from Iowa, that those funds come in state. Part of the requirement on behalf of any of the installers in the state is we have a contract with ComEd that we have to guarantee the production of these systems for 15 years. So every system that gets installed in the state will have to have those agreements with the utility. So it's like, okay, you can get some incentives to help get over that obstacle, that instead of sending it out of state, we'll keep it here, but we have to make sure these are kept up. So every installer has to meet those requirements.
That was something the state fought for, is to make sure that there's a guarantee of production, that there's not sort of the in and out companies that kind of come into the state. Really quick, back to your point about the systems that could be. So Sunrun as a company across the nation, we're in 23 states. In none of our 23 states do we ever use a system that kind of like elevates
It's that rotating, yeah.
I think it's an old technology, but it's worth saying that Sunrun always does flush mount systems that are always parallel to the system. And I would say that that's usually cities' number one concern.
Yeah.
Whether they have a complicated solar, like guidelines or very basic ones, it's usually always making sure that there's never a tilt type system. So. Pretty confident. Did you guys have questions about Sunrun as a company?
You gotta ask.
What's that? About the fire department or neighbors?
No, neighbors.
Oh, do you know, sorry, do you know if the homeowners received any no's or anything from any of their neighbors?
No, our understanding, they received no feedback. I know we sent out
The cards and all that, yeah.
yeah.
We had one call from a resident that just asked what the sign was in their yard, and once we explained it, they had no concerns with
But
it.
they had no concerns?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks for letting us come before you and answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all
As
the
you know,
information.
we could talk about solar all night, so pull us off the stage.
Okay,
Thank you.
I guess officially I have to open this to the crowd that's seated in the audience. Seeing none, we will close that portion of the meeting. And any other comments, questions for Brian? Okay, the only comment I would make is that I could never put panels like that on my roof because it would be a haven for squirrels. Hide under
Hide
there.
underneath.
Yeah, how is it cleaned? Does it need to be cleaned?
Not in a state like in Illinois. We get enough rain and snow.
Kind of cleans the face off.
Self-clean. And if you're concerned about squirrels, there's critter guards, squirrel protectors, because they are probably the most troublesome thing.
You haven't seen my squirrels.
Get it anywhere.
And what is the general cost of I don't know, is it per panel or whatever?
Really based on how much power a homeowner is using, because we match it to what they had used in
Right.
the previous year. Generally, if you're looking at like a bill like monthly, it's roughly 20 to 25% less. If you're looking at a purchase cost, it could go anywhere between 5 to 20, maybe more for the full system. And then there's rebates on top of that, and then tax stuff, so that's lower than top.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like we're out of questions, so the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the village board of trustees approval of a conditional use for an accessory solar energy system for the property located at 540 Ridgewood Drive, subject to the following conditions. 1, conditional use shall be granted for the property located at 540 Ridgewood Drive. 2, the proposed improvement shall substantially conform to the attached plans and exhibits as part of this petition, except as they may be changed to conform to village codes and all conditions of approval.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? None? Roll call vote.
Williams,
Yes.
Pippin,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kretschmer,
Yes.
Graziano.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Check with Brian as to when you go before the village board and
Scheduled for next Tuesday.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is it, well, I'll check.
With the unanimous recommendation tonight, since it was a 5-0, it goes on the consent agenda, so it might not even be discussed at all at that level. But if you want to have somebody there just in case it gets questioned, I recommend it. But the meeting would be at 6 o'clock next Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks.
thank you. Okay, flying right along here, we have village case number 18 ZPA 09002. The petitioner is the village of Cary, and they want to mess around with our zoning text.
We've been messing around with it for years now. What do you think?
I assume you're making the presentation,
I
Mr.
can,
Simmons?
yes. I don't have a lot of slides. I just have this one. But as we've discussed previously at prior meetings, the proposed change to the code would be to add an associate member to this board. And basically what an associate member would do would be expanding the board to 8 members, but that associate member would only vote during a time when there's one less, or one of the regular 7 members cannot be here. So in the evening, tonight, as an example, we're down 2 members. If the associate member were here, they would be allowed to both discuss and vote on the item.
It'd be a jury alternate, basically.
Correct, yeah. So, and during meetings where all 7 of the regular members are here and the associate member would be here as well, they would also be allowed to participate in the discussion. Just when roll call is called, their name wouldn't be called for a vote in that instance. So it's a tool or that's been utilized by other communities that I've actually worked for. There's other communities in the area that utilize it as well, but it's a good way to not only train members on kind of the process as far as how this board operates, but also have somebody on the board so that if one of the members can't be here for work purposes or other reasons, or happens to move out of town, you have a replacement that can step right in without having to go to the community for applications for new members. So that's the gist of what the modification is. The proposed modification of the text is presented in the slide. Be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the proposed change.
I'll just say that I had this on the board I was a staff liaison to in Lincolnshire, and it was really helpful.
I was going to say.
I mean, not only just keeping a quorum, but also when somebody inevitably would leave, you had a person that could slide right in and it would be seamless,
Because they already knew how everything worked,
Yeah.
everything went on.
Yeah. So I would, highly support this because of my own personal experience.
Well, and I would agree with you too, especially considering the last several meetings, we've had a quorum, but we have not had a full board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in this calendar year, just looking at our attendance, we've had 1 meeting out of, I think, 13 or 14 that we've had where we've had the full board
Right.
here. This calendar year, last year, the numbers were, we had more meetings with a full board, but things happen, people have to work, and there's other circumstances that come up, people can't be here. So this is just a way that we can continue to conduct village business when there's petitions that are before us, that that member could step in if there's somebody that can't be here.
Well, and I think like Scott said too, it's definitely a good training mechanism. So if one of us does leave, and then you find a new associate member.
Right, and that echo what Scott had mentioned as well. It was a community I previously worked for had this for the zoning board, and I think the first 2 years there, we didn't have a full board because somebody was always leaving. As soon as you got the new member, somebody else left, and it was a way that you were constantly getting somebody there, but that associate member helped to fill out the numbers so that you had enough to hold a meeting and review cases.
Yeah.
Also, I think, seeing the challenges that the mayor and Patrick went through in filling a potential open seat, luckily Frank decided to come back. This would be an easier position to fill because the requirements may not be quite as stringent as far as experience or, because,
I think that was probably some of the problems the mayor was having, was finding somebody with, he found plenty with, you know, want, but it's the knowledge that's a little hard to go off of, so.
and this gives somebody an opportunity to gain that knowledge
Right.
and before they get a regular seat on the board, so.
Any other comments, questions? I'm not gonna open this to the public.
There's no public, so I would agree.
Well, I'm opening it, I'm closing it for the record. Therefore, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend to the Village Board of Trustees approval of excuse me, of text amendments to the zoning ordinance of section 17.70, Board of Review, to add an associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll make that motion.
You go ahead.
Second.
You too, I do it all the time, grab one.
Okay. Moved and seconded, just. Okay, board review being review of the petition and the,
Correct. Board review is the section of the code that's titled 17
tells
sections
us
board
what we're
review.
supposed to do?
Correct.
Okay.
And the text of that speaks towards the Board of Zoning, or not the Board of Zoning Planning of Appeals, but it is the zoning board in that section. And other sections of the code refer to the Plan Commission, but the Zoning Board of Appeals is both of those entities combined. And then the Plan Commission is comprised of the members of the zoning board, which is also the members of the zoning Board of Zoning Planning and Appeals. So by changing this section, it makes us changes to those other two committees as well.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The language needs to be cleaned up more than this. So.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing no indication of such, roll call vote.
Pippin,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kretschmer,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Graziano.
Yes.
So moved. Oh, sorry. You have to ask for it first.
Any and all other business? Any and all other business? Hearing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:06 or something.